Hello, my name is Liberty Cowden, and I'm glad to be with you today. I'm going to be reflecting upon the journey that I have just completed, going through the Bachelor of Applied Arts and Science degree in Organizational Leadership through Texas A&M Commerce. It has been quite a journey, and I am very proud to say that I am an aspiring organizational leader. You may have heard it said at times that ignorance is bliss, and indeed, that's where I stood at the beginning of this journey. You see the image here on the right. It looks like a long and winding road, and that truly is a visual of my journey and what it has looked like. I began this degree, want to say, in 2014, and was making major progress toward completing the degree when I gave birth 5 weeks early to my son Corbin, who's now 5 going on 6. And it was just quite unexpected. Not that his birth wasn't anticipated, but it certainly wasn't anticipated at the time. And so it just really threw me off in my studies, and I took a very long hiatus. As a matter of fact, I didn't begin coursework again until just this past year in 2020. And so I took a nice 5 year hiatus. And so I would say that my road was long and it was winding, and there were certainly, mountains to climb, and there were valleys too. In the midst of my journey, I've been through a lot of things personally in my own life, as a, daughter, sister, mother, wife, teacher, friend, all of those roles that I, have, and those hats that I wear. I've been through many, many ups and downs along the way, and those in part have contributed to and sort of informed my thinking about the degree, and the applied major courses as I was completing each one of them. Winston Churchill once said that mountaintops inspire leaders, but it's the valleys that mature them. And I really do believe that. It certainly holds true in my own life. The valleys have indeed matured me. And Rosalia de Castro said, I see my path, but I don't know where it leads. And not knowing where I'm going is actually what inspires me to travel it. And that really resonates with me as well. I had no idea it would take me as long as it did to complete this journey, but I'm glad that I traveled this road. And looking back, I never would have chosen the hills and valleys that were on the road. But again, it was the not knowing what was coming, that it inspired me to, see what was around the next curve. And so I'm glad that I did. There's a song that is sung by an artist. Her name is Sarah Groves, and it's called Painting Pictures of Egypt. And my journey was long and difficult. I didn't complete my college degree, my bachelor's degree, at a time when, I was young and fresh out of high school and unmarried and without children. And so there were a lot of obstacles along the way. And the song, I've got some of the lyrics here on screen. It really, it sort of defines the journey that I've been on. It wasn't easy to be able to complete this coursework with all of the challenges that I have before me. But it made it all the more worthwhile. The song has the following lyrics. It says that it's not about losing faith and it's not about trust. It's all about comfortable when you move so much. And, going down that long, winding road, I've really felt that it required a lot of movement on my part. And then it says, in the place I wasn't perfect, but I had found a way to live. And it wasn't milk or honey, but then neither is this. And so, um, you know, when you paint pictures of Egypt and you leave out what it lacked, and that's sort of the chorus, it's that you are, just looking backwards instead of forward. And there were times in my journey that I ask myself, what was I thinking? Why did I do this to myself? I was perfectly happy. Why the added torture, and all the extra demands on my time as if I didn't have enough already? And so I essentially was painting pictures of Egypt and leaving out what it lacked. And she says that the future feels so hard. I just want to go back. And it's sort of the song is talking about the children of Israel when they left Egypt to escape slavery. And then she says the places that used to fit me cannot hold the things that I've learned. Those roads were closed off to me while my back was turned. And I guess that's what kept me going, because even though I would ask myself, why, Liberty, did you choose this for yourself? You have literally inflicted this torture upon yourself. And it wasn't torture in the learning. It was all about juggling and the time constraints that I have, because the information and the knowledge that I gained as a result of the applied major courses was invaluable to me, and I loved every bit of the information. I adore learning. And so, you know, it's a strange correlation that I've put together here, but it really resonates with me. It says that the past is so tangible, and I know it by heart, and I did. I know what life looked like prior to being in school again, and it wasn't simple, it wasn't perfect, but it was easier, and it was comfortable, and I knew it. And she says that, familiar things are never easy to discard. And that is kind of where I stood, at least for the first few courses. And certainly as these last courses approached and the projects became weightier and heavier, I ask myself those same questions again, like, why? What were you thinking? This is, too big for you. It's too much. And I had a lot of self-doubt along the way, but those rooms being closed off to me, or I'm sorry, not rooms, the roads that were closed off to me really kept me going. When I was tempted to turn around and go back, I could see that, the bridge was out back there, or there was a roadblock, or whatever the case may be. I had the blessing of wonderful family. My husband and my children really encouraged me, and they were so gracious as I took so much time for myself on this journey, and I just really appreciate that. It says that I was dying for some freedom, but now I hesitate to go. And I definitely have hesitated. And that's so odd, right? With a name like Liberty, that you would hesitate to move toward freedom. And that's really what I see the achievement of um, the knowledge that we gained, or that I gained on this journey, is that it has given me freedom. You know, I have learned so much. And my favorite part at the end is she says, if it comes too quick, I may not appreciate it. And certainly my journey was not a quick one. And so I can tell you that I definitely do have much appreciation for the journey. Um, and so when she talks about painting pictures of Egypt and leaving out what it lacked, if the pictures were, more resonant with reality, then they would show all of those things. And for some reason, the idea of furthering my knowledge and education, so that I can be a better leader in, my career as a cardiac sonographer and a professor of cardiac sonography at Dallas College. I don't want to, be enslaved by limits. I do tell my students all the time that there is nothing that they cannot achieve if they put their mind to it. And I needed to apply that to myself. And so, in that sense, this was very, very, very good for me. Mentally, in the knowledge that I gained, personally, spiritually, it was a beautiful journey. Not an easy journey, but beautiful just the same. And, when I talk about comparing it to freedom, gaining that education, I love quotes that I read from Frederick Douglass. And so I put a couple of them here. He says that knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave. And so I really love that. I love that, I've gained a lot of knowledge that I didn't previously have through these courses. And I just appreciate so much the time and care that has been taken by the instructors to create the curriculum, because it really has changed me. He says that those who profess to favor freedom and yet depreciate agitation are people who want crops without plowing the ground. I never really thought about it like that. But then he says they want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the roar of its many waters. And that really resonated with me, because just recently I took an amazing trip to Cabo San Lucas, where I was on a training. One of the other things that I do on the side of my regular career, and in addition to my schooling, is that I am a health coach, a certified health coach as well. And I traveled to Cabo San Lucas for a training, a health coach training. And one of the things that I did while I was there is that I got up early in the morning. And this is actually a picture that I took on the beach. And I walked out to the beach and watched the sunrise. And I listened to the roar of those waves crashing against the beach. And they were so powerful. And I wouldn't want to diminish the power and the beauty of those waves. And so when I read that quote by Frederick Douglass, I realized that I was wanting the ocean without the roar of those waves. And that's not what I want. I love the roar. I can still hear that roar in my dreams. All I have to do is close my eyes and I can hear it crashing on the beach. And it was so peaceful even though there was so much agitation, to use his word. And so there's been a lot of agitation through my journey. Um, and so, but I looking back, I know that I value that agitation, and I'm glad that I had it. Um, would I have chosen it for myself? Not necessarily, had I known that it was coming. But in hindsight, looking back, I see what I've gleaned from it. And so, in that sense, I appreciate it. Reality sets in, as you move through those applied major courses. Um, maybe you think you know everything. Well, if you really know everything, then you know that you don't know what you don't know. And so that's one of the things that I learned is, I thought to myself when I began this journey and this degree, organizational leadership. Okay, I've always been a leader. That'll probably be real easy. I know what it means to be a leader. But, unbeknownst to me, I didn't know what I didn't know. And now, looking back and seeing that, and being better informed, it only makes me more humbled to realize that there's so much that I don't even know that I don't know. And so I thought this slide was kind of fun with the little pie chart that demonstrates, how much we know versus, what we don't know, and then what we don't know that we don't know. So as a leader, where do we go from here? In the beginning, who was I? This is a picture of me on the left teaching my cardiac sonography students in the lab just about 2 years ago, actually. And you can see that I look quite a bit different in that picture. I was about 80 pounds heavier, actually. And so that picture is there because it represents really who I was in the beginning. I was tired, and I was overweight and struggling and in pain, and I'll say, bondage a little bit, as far as feeling weighed down. And I'm saying that metaphorically. Yes, I had physical weight that was on my body, but there were stresses inside of me that were weighing me down. And one of those stresses was the thirst that I have for knowledge and learning, and the fact that I'd not completed this degree that I had begun years ago. And that bothered me. It bothered me so much. And, in the beginning, like I said, I had this image in my mind that it would be an easy journey, but it certainly was not. What I learned along the way in the middle here, you can see a picture of me before and after, just on the physical journey. But what I hope that you're able to see in those two images are the physical manifestation of being freed from the weight that was on me. And so going through this journey, I was renewed and inspired again. And for some reason, when I'm not learning, I feel as though I am just shriveling up and dying in a sense. And so being able to go through this journey has meant a whole lot to me. And in different ways in each of the classes, I learned something different in each one. Who am I today? I'm certainly more humble. And I'm a lot better informed. And where do we go from here? Well, the journey isn't over for me. This is just a stop along the way. I do hope and plan to complete my master's there at A&M as well. As far as my leadership abilities, when I began the organizational leadership applied major coursework, um, I thought that I had an idea of what leadership looked like and what it should look like, and through the you know through the coursework, the applied major coursework in each one of the classes, I added new information to my knowledge set that was sort of life changing. In the beginning issues in organizational leadership, I learned to define organizations, and we talked about a number of different theories of leadership, and it really taught me how and why certain people become leaders. And, we took a look at the behaviors of leaders as well in that class. My favorite courses, aside from these capstone courses, and even though the capstones are quite painful in the heavy undertaking workload and the thought that was required, really just having to dig into my soul a little bit. The data-driven decision-making classes were so much fun for me. I really love the quantifying of data, and learning how to take data and to interpret it and use different tools to understand data. That I've found those classes to be so much fun. And I wish there was a degree, completely directed toward the quantitative use of data. I loved those classes very much. Behavior, ethics, and leadership, certainly those were great classes as well. Love to examine ethics in the workplace. Being in healthcare, this is a topic that is really, really relevant in my career, not only in healthcare, but in education as well. And, what our role should be as leaders. And I enjoyed doing the self-assessment exercises in those classes. And I felt that I learned more about who I am through those. So that was a great benefit to me. The leadership theory courses, they really focused on the leadership role within management. And I enjoyed analyzing the organizational processes and taking a look at the challenges in leading within organizations and operations and projects. And that really, those courses or that course really gave an opportunity to apply the theory that we had learned in practice. And so it involved practical application of the theory. The leading change course really allowed opportunity to look at issues related to changes within organizations, and I enjoyed that course. But the capstones are really the pinnacle, I have to say. They were challenging in a way that I think academically I've not been challenged before. And so it was scary and a bit trepidatious for me, but I really enjoyed it. I really appreciated the feedback from you, Dr. Hendricks, and I'm just grateful to have had the opportunity to have been in your courses. And that concludes, this presentation. And I just want to say thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to just tell you a little bit about my journey. Thank you so much.